It is
Reset day.
my dudes.
What's up gamers, it is TreeSap Jake here with yet another video. Now, I wanted to today go over something that I think is quite important for all of us to know. It is what happens when we get to Renown 30, when we start unlocking in our soulbinds those very last bits and pieces, those last abilities that actually make quite a difference. This is just an informative video just so you're aware, and I'm going to talk about how that sort of changes things really going forwards for shamans, for players just in general, and I think it's important just to know. So the first one we're going to start off with the Venthyr tree. Now, I know Nadia is the one that a lot of players are using. It's the one that most people are kind of going for. I'm going to look at the others as well, obviously going past Renown 30. But for Renown 30, I think the most important thing to realize is that there is this one in particular, this soulbind conduit bit called Familiar Predicaments. Now, what's interesting is that the duration of interrupt, snare, root effects are reduced by 25%. Now, what does this mean for us? It means quite a bit actually. It means that our 3-second interrupt is now lower than 3 seconds. It means that when we kick things, there is more chance of them just to shrug it off. It's disruptive, especially for Elemental Shaman. You know, the Wind Shear is a great ability, but having it reduced by 25%, this is really, really good. It counters Boomkins really, really hard. So if you're a Disc Priest and you get Root Beamed, it means that you're in there for less time, maybe 6 seconds as opposed to 8. It just helps out a lot. It's actually a very, very, very good conduit bit to have, and obviously also it goes just before potency conduit part as well, so it's actually a really, really, really good conduit. What does this mean? It means that when we're dealing with Disc Priests, when we're dealing with Venthyr Holy Paladins, Prot Paladins, that sort of thing, if we try and snare them, if we try and, you know, root them, interrupt them, anything that we might have in our arsenal, especially interrupts, it's going to be reduced quite a bit. So it means that whilst we might get a kick on them, by the second global they're up and healing again, which means that our kicks may be less impactful, which is kind of grim. So it, you know, is really, really good for them. Thankfully, it's only on Disc Priests as far as I'm aware. Maybe even Mistweavers, if Mistweavers get buffed at this point. At this time, they're not very good. But if Mistweavers get buffed and you kick them on Soothing Mists, and yeah, I mean, just they're back up again. They're starting to do it again, especially for shamans. Maybe this has more worth against rogues, against mages, where, you know, the kicks are sort of 6 seconds long. That reduces them again to down to 4, which is insane. That's really, really good. It means there's more chance for them to sort of be back up and ready. So Disc Priests are looking strong with this. This is really, really good. Another major thing as well, it just means that a lot of casters like Shadow Priests, for example, they're just going to tank kicks. They don't need to do anything. They can just tank the kicks. It's 4 seconds or less than 3 seconds or 3 seconds in general from other ones. They just can tank them, and that's fine. They're back up and casting again, so really, in all honesty, this is going to be quite scary, and some of you may have already experienced that this week. In all honesty, it's probably the most viable one. The only other one I can really think about is from Renown 31, which is this one, Hold Your Ground. That looks quite good, but again, I mean, Nadia is just too strong. It's just, I think that's the only one we're going to see really from Venthyr. Going to move quickly on to Necrolord. I just want to talk about Necrolord right now because obviously for shamans, this is our thing. This is where it changes. Now, a lot of you probably haven't seen this yet, but Chaz the other day, when he used Ultimate Form here, so I'm going to just hover over Ultimate Form, he used this to absolutely negate a blind. The outplay potential for using Marileth is insane. The possibilities are endless. There's so much you can do. In 3v3, you could... I used it the other day, and I stopped a kidney shot in the opener on me. It was insane. It was really, really good. If you play it really well, the only way they can stop it is by kicking it, which means they kick you on Shadow. Which means for a shaman, doesn't affect us. We use nature, fire, and ice. Fantastic. Maybe for DKs and maybe, you know, and like other things that use shadow magic. Sort of if you're Necrolord, Shadow Priest, then maybe it might be a bit more difficult. But for shamans, oh, it's so good. The only way they can stop it is by kicking it. So just to read this out, while channeling Fleshcraft, you are immune to crowd control and you regenerate 2% of your health every 1 second. If you finish the full channel, you gain 4 seconds of crowd control immunity, during which you regenerate 2% health every 1 second. It's insane. 4 seconds of complete crowd control immunity. You can, if you want, in an opener against rogues, run out to the middle, get your Earth Ellie out, and then just start channeling Fleshcraft. Okay, you got Fleshcraft out. They can't sap you. They can't do anything. The only thing they can do is kick you right now. And then you're regenerating your health. So if they do go for anything, or if they just open on you, you're just regenerating health anyway. And then you're in combat. So you can do all of that, get the combat, put it all out. It's insane. It's an incredible, incredible thing. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I think we're going to see Shamans being really strong using this, especially into Rogue Mage. I think Rogue Mage is going to really struggle if you're playing at higher rating, and you've got a Resto Shaman who really knows how to use this. He'll just try and stop the blinds, stop the goes. You'll really need to cross CC in order to get this out, but if you're not cross CCing, there's a chance they're just completely and totally... It's kind of like a Shaman death, you know, like Shadow Word death as a way to get out of stuff, but obviously on a 2-minute cooldown. So... really interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of this. I don't think that the others are as good. I think Maraleth is by far the best and will continue to be the best now that we're at Renown 30. You get a shield. Ultimate form is just too strong. Even if it's a 2-minute cooldown, it's a way to stop CC. It's incredible. And if you play it really well, I mean, the skill cap just goes way up. So super cool, really fun ability to use now. Okay, so we're moving swiftly on to the Night Fae. Night Fae have, I think, the less impactful change. One of the least impactful, tied probably with Kyrian, with level Renown 30, but it's still good to know there is something here at the bottom called Naya's Tools Burrs. If you're playing Night Fae, and I've tested this out a little bit, it just throws a little kind of circular thing on the ground. It's not nearly as cool as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to just instantly apply it, but you know, it's really, really good, I think, for PvE where things are just stationary. But if you're getting attacked, like maybe melee or something like that, and it throws it down on the ground, it causes them to slow, which is nice. The slow is there, but it's super easy to dodge if you're just running around. If you're against spellcasters, it's just so easy to dodge. It just goes out and it's just on the ground and it's kind of there, and it's just, you just move out of it, and it's, you know, you can dodge it really easy. I don't think I've actually been trapped by this or stopped by this at all. It does a fair bit amount of damage as well if they stand in it, so it's definitely a way to makes them move. If there's sort of like a less mobile, maybe like a Destro Warlock trying to cast, and make them want to move, but again, like most of the time they won't. I mean, it's not enough damage to kind of like make them go, I've got to get out of this, but it does slow them. I mean, I guess it's kind of a slow. It's really nice for Demon Hunters. I think for Demon Hunters this is really, really good. Anything else, I'm not sure. I mean, it's impactful, but not massively impactful. Going forward, I think actually the one that I think personally that's going to be really terrifying is Face Your Foes using Corrin. So when we get this at level 31 for if you're playing Night Fae, I think this is going to be scary. When you stand in front of your target, your spells and abilities decrease the damage they inflict on you by 3% for 2 seconds. So standing in front of someone, just instantly get a 3% wall. I mean, it's not much, but it's something. Just passively, that's quite good. It just makes you a bit more tanky. You know, if you're playing Balanced Druid or Demon Hunter or anything like that that uses Night Fae, Warlocks, whatever, you're standing in front of someone, you're facing them, you've got to face them normally. You're not normally behind someone. Most of the time, that's, you know, that's rogues or melee, but you're going to face someone and they're going to have their damage decreased on you for 2 seconds. I don't know if there's a cooldown at all, but if it's just passively there, you just instantly get that. Another big thing is the Wild Hunt tactics. Your damage to targets above 75% and healing to targets below 35% is increased by 10%. This is crazy, and then obviously you get an increased movement speed for 5 seconds, and when they're enhanced this way, so it just means that you've got like a way to get people below 75% health a bit more, kind of like more of like an execute kind of thing, sort of like that's really, really good, I think, to be honest. A 10% extra can go a lot. It gets people down to the range where maybe other classes like, you know, warriors or other damaging classes can get them below. It just means you burst way harder at the beginning. Really, really nice. And it also means that you increase your healing to yourself by 35%. So it means that when you go down and use bear form below 35% health, if you're a Balanced Druid, for example, you press Frenzied Regen or you proc your Conduit that gives you that increased healing, you just shoot back up. It's mental. And I think this will be really, really good. So this I'd say Corrin is really scary. I think, obviously, if you're playing the other character here, if you're playing Nia, you have this, which is the Grove Invigoration, which is sort of approximately 2 procs per minute. When you use your big damaging ability, you use your Covenant ability, you get loads and loads of stacks. It gives you a buttload of mastery when you maybe not be stacking mastery. So for Druids, for example, or Demon Hunters, this could be big. But I think personally something to watch out for is going to be Corrin. I think this is going to be kind of scary where they get that passive percentage damage reduction. But, something to think about in your games. I know this comes next week, but something to consider. The last one I want to look at is Kyrian. I'm not too sure about Kyrian. I know Pelagos is the one to go for, but there's nothing that seems to be massively scary for them. I don't think there's quite the impactful nature of everything, but there is something just to be aware of. It's just good to know what they're getting and what they might be choosing. So one of these is Let Go of the Past. I think this is an interesting ability. When you use a spell or ability, reduces your magic damage by 1% for 6 seconds. Using another spell or ability increases this amount by 1% when it does not repeat the previous spell or ability, stacking to 3%. So you get 3% magic reduction. Seeing that everyone uses magic, this could be quite useful. Again, it's like a similar wall thing. It kind of reduces passive magic, reduces all the problems like that. I think this could be really interesting. I think this will be probably the one that they go for. It's not massively impactful. It just means that less damage. So monks, for example, paladins, for example, are not going to get bashed out by all the magic dealers or, like, you know, condemn or anything like that. It'll be a bit more of that passive reduction. So just something to consider, you know, possibly. I'm not saying that this is the one to go for. I don't know Kyrian that well, but what I'm saying is that you need to be aware when you're playing against these people whether or not, okay, so these guys, why they're not dying very quickly. Well, it's because they've got Let Go of the Past. They've got that 3% damage reduction when they're not using the same spell from before. I mean, this is most predominantly for monks. I think monks, this is going to be really important. This is going to make monks super tanky, or at least a little bit more tanky than they originally were. So they're already using this with it's a kind of very similar concept to how hit combo used to work with not repeating, or I mean they get that with the mastery anyway, but a similar sort of, instead of a damage buff, it gives you a damage reduction. So at least a incoming damage reduction. So interesting. The only other one I can think of that would actually be kind of cool is this one here, Mechanicos. After 5 seconds standing still, incoming stun and incapacitate durations are reduced by 30, lasts for 5 seconds when you start moving. I imagine this probably stacks with Cephas. Be interesting to know if it does stack with Cephas. If it stacks with Cephas, you get 30%, and then on top of that, another, what is it, 10%, 20%. Also, Orc Racial. Does this make this ridiculous? I mean, if you're playing an Orc monk and you go down Forge Light Prime Mechanicos's line, you know, you're just in stuns and incapacitates for very little time. I mean, I think it's another 20% Orc hardness for stuns. That's a 50% reduction to stuns. If that stacks, that'd be mental. So something to consider. You know, you could be stunning a monk and he sits there for like, what, 2 seconds whilst he's got weapons of order up. You can't stop him. You'd have to like cyclone him or poly him. That's the only way you can actually work that. So interesting. I think this could be something that's interesting, but just bear in mind, if you see these guys and they're not staying in stuns for ages, this could be it. I mean, it could be great for healers. The only problem is you've got to stand still for 5 seconds. I don't really see monks doing that. That's my only thing. They're always moving. But for healers, yeah, 100%. So, but again, like they could just, you know, they could stand behind a pillar for 5 seconds, heal themselves up, and then run out, and then they got that reduction. But for healers, you know, you're standing there, you're just sort of healing, you're doing all your bits and pieces. Maybe it works for you. I don't know. I think personally, Pelagos is the one they're going to go for, but it's just something to consider. Maybe you're not. Yeah, there's some outplayed potential here, but just something to consider. Alright guys, that's it, that's everything. I just wanted to go through those bits and pieces, just kind of talk about my thoughts, something that might be interesting, something that might just change the meta a little bit as things start to move. I think the Shaman, I think the Necrolord change for Fleshcraft is big. I think we're going to see that come into motion very quickly. People are going to start really using outplays for that, and it just changes the way that you play. But it's also good to know and kind of be aware of what other classes have, helps you improve as a player. Anyways guys, any thoughts, any queries, any concerns, let me know down in the comments. More than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Please keep the support going guys, we're doing so well. I think we're up above 2,500 now. I'm really pleased with all that support, so please do continue to support the channel. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, it really helps. But I'll see you in the next video. See ya.